Hi guys, we're still waiting for some more. I think Lateefa Musah is here. Can you guys hear me? Is the volume good? Hey guys, can you guys hear me? Is the volume good? Hi Lateefa. Hey, oh, I think you're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry, I didn't even check. Okay, is that better?
Yes, awesome, awesome, very good. Very
Okay.
Good. We're still waiting for a few more of our GruvCity freelancers. Give them some stuff that we're here for. So
Okay.
it's 12:00. It's actually 12:01/6:01, and we'll give maybe the next 4 minutes for a few individuals to trickle in. I'm gonna push a few things out, and we'll proceed from there.
All right, that's fine.
Awesome. Mr. Abel, thank you for tuning in. Can you hear me? Mr. Scott Abel, can you hear me? Is the volume good? We're just gonna wait for a few more to tune in. I'm gonna actually make a few calls while we're waiting. Give me a few minutes. Okay, it is 12:05. We're still waiting. I think we have about three freelancers in here, including myself and Lateefa Musah. I'm going to try to see how many people have seen this post. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have about 7 people, so I'm anticipating a few more people are coming in within the next few minutes. Just so that we do not go about to repeat ourselves again, I'll rather have at least as much as we can get in. We are scheduled to have this run for about an hour. So let me try to reach out to some more of our freelancers or our potential freelancers to come in to try to get some details on this opportunity. I'll take another 4 minutes actually, and then we should be ready to go. Okay, so while we are waiting for a few more of our freelancers, I think what we'll do so far, Ebo, Scott, I think we have Techno Spark and we have Tisia Joseph. Let's start with Abel Scott while we are waiting. Abel, how are you doing? Mr. Abel? Mr. Abel, how is it going? Well, apparently you are not in. Apparently, Mr. Abel, you don't. We don't have your. Can you hear us? Can you hear clearly? Okay, Mr. Techno. Mr. Techno.
So I'm hearing you. I'm on you. I'm on you.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Mr. Techno, well, while we're waiting for some of our freelancers, I want you to just introduce yourself. My name first is Ibuomi Abibo. I have Lateefa Musah here. I'm the founder of and Lateefa Musah. She's, I'll let her introduce herself. She's also an expert, professional also, I think a student of, she studied mechanical engineering, and also she has been a GruvCity freelancer. So she one with the experience, she's our veteran, and she's with us here. So once we decide to start, I will go ahead, but I want you to introduce yourself. I want you to tell us what you do and why you're seeking this opportunity, what you bring for this opportunity. This is a means of you also sharing your skill set.
Okay, my name is Paul Precious. I'm a photographer, and so do videography also.
Very nice, very nice.
I joined the Freelancer just to share my when it comes to the work at GruvCity.
Very nice, very nice.
Hello, sir.
Well, what I want to just say is that just feel free. Just, you know, one other thing I'll tell you, just feel free, just be yourself. Obviously, you have some skill set. That's what we looked from what you submitted. And this is an opportunity, but we'll get deeper into this. We'll get deeper into this as soon as we start. So you said, go ahead.
I do.
Okay, apparently my mic may not be 100%. So I think a few calls are dropping off. Well, what we're gonna do, we are recording. So what we're gonna do is to try to see if any can get in. We're gonna still start on schedule, okay? We said we have at least an hour, but we have a few who are plugging in. Some are on the forum, and I mentioned they can't hear. I think Scott Abel said he can't hear. Scott, I don't see your microphone on. Can you guys still hear me? Very well, nice. Scott, I don't see your microphone on. I'm gonna reply to Scott. Okay, so what will happen is that for those, I'm gonna just put, we're waiting and it's 12:12. Well, to try to make sure that we are in on time, let me see if Scott can hear this. So Scott. Oops. My camera may be faulty. Lateefa, we're going to go in 2 minutes. 2 minutes, we're going to start. Frankly, we will start in 2 minutes. Those who are here are those that matter. That's what I've been told. When you have something like this, those who are here are those that matter. So we'll go start with those. So this is for Scott, okay? All right. Scott, you might want to unplug and plug back. I think I don't see your microphone on. Okay. So 1 more minute, Lateefa, and we'll roll as usual. We will roll it as usual. So Scott, can you, okay, very nice. I see you, Scott. Very nice.
I can hear it now.
Awesome,
Thank you.
awesome. Very good, very good. Hey, Mr. Scott, well, I'm glad you can hear us. I am Ibwemi Abibo, and I have Lateefa Musah here with me. Lateefa Musah, she is a professional in her own right, a mechanical engineer, and also she works full-time, but she has also been a freelancer. So I brought her on board to try to give some idea into this. But what I want you to do for starters, I want you to try to introduce yourself so that for records, let us know who you are and what you do and what you can bring to GruvCity, given the opportunity.
Okay. All right. My name is Scott Ebo, and I'm a teacher by profession. So I read physics education, and I kind of have a knack for writing. So that's why I opted to volunteer for the freelancing.
Very nice. That's excellent. Very excellent. One thing I'll mention from just me hearing you speak is I like your pronunciation, your diction, and I like the fact how you maintain your professionality. These are certain things that we're looking for. So, Mr. Scott, well, I'll tell you, thank you for attending, and we'll try to start getting it rolling right now, okay? So, others,
Thank you.
You're welcome. Others who would be trickling in as they come, that would be fine. But we're gonna try to start getting it in now. So, good day. We're recording. So one disclaimer or one thing I want to let you know, Scott, is that actually we have Lateefa Musah here, and she may be taking photos eventually, depending on how the turnout is, just for use. So if you don't want a photo to be taken, depending on how much audience we do have, then you can actually mention that, and you can also kind of close your camera then. But without further ado, we're gonna go ahead to start. So this is the introduction. You guys can see the slides. Can you see the slide, the shared slide? Awesome, awesome, awesome. So Scott, you cannot see the slide. Do you see introduction to GruvCity, our current slide?
Yes, I can see it.
Wonderful, excellent. So we're going to go about to start. So we're just making a recap of introduction to GruvCity. We already did a short video a while back, and the reason why we are bringing you guys back again is because there have been some discrepancies in the chat and in the communications with our freelancers, our active or professional freelancers. So we want to try to use this opportunity to recap and also to try to give you some insight into what we are doing and the potential of what you might bring, and also what we have in store for you. Right now, these are dynamic times, right? So in these dynamic times, we are trying to also do certain things for in the city, for Nigeria, and also try to put out some certain kind of work. So I'm going to start. My name is Ibwemi Abibo. I'm the CEO of GruvCity, founder. That's me. And I have with me here Lateefa Musah. Lateefa, would you mind introducing yourself, please?
Hi, everyone. How are you guys doing? My name is Lateefa Musah. I live in Port Harcourt, so I know that some of the writers are in Abuja and others are in Lagos, but I live in Port Harcourt. I have been a freelance writer for GruvCity in the past, and I'm currently a development practitioner. I studied civil engineering and structures engineering. I practiced that for a while before I moved into the development space. But I love writing. I have always written, and I'm moving slowly to see how I can become a content creator, storyteller, and script writer. So that's where my introduction into writing is all about. So I write different types of content. So I'm really looking forward to see the clash of creatives that we have here. I know that I've been told that we have both writers, we have videographers, we have photographers. So we basically have a whole media house. So I'm excited about that. I didn't have that when I was writing. It was just me and my words and my phone camera. So it's good to see that we have other professionals in the house. I'd really like to hear what you guys are looking forward to bring into the table, and I can see where I can make my input.
Definitely excellent. Definitely excellent. I wanted to also mention that we have, as much as we have writers, videographers, we also have graphic designers as well, in photographers and even citizen journalists. So, just based on your experience, Lateefa, there's a wealth of experience that and perspective that you can add or you can give just in the process of going about to start generating content, how your creativity angle, and how you went about to try to start locating content. In other words, you went about to create work for yourself. So that is a talent where, especially in these dire times, is necessary, and that's one of the things. So thank you, Lateefa. May I mention, Lateefa, you've published articles in a few other places. You have articles in many other places. Can you mention a few places where you're published?
Okay, so I have my articles published on ND-Link, which is a development site for young development practitioners in Port Harcourt and everywhere around the Niger Delta, all of the 9 states around the Niger Delta. I have my articles published in Coral Life magazine. I have a Medium account for myself. I also have some of my work published for Startup Week Port Harcourt as well, which is in their magazine for last year, if I'm not mistaken. And okay, I have written a book for someone, but my name is not on the book because I just ghostwrited the book for the individual. So, but I've done that as well. I have also worked with, besides development practitioners, I've worked with journalists as well. I've worked with photographers, videographers. So I'm currently helping to provide content for a startup show that's coming up in Port Harcourt. It's called the Grid Sessions. So Grid Sessions is basically just a group of friends that come together to discuss vital issues that are, very familiar with youths, that are familiar with adults, pressing issues going on around the world. And it's just a nice way for people to just come together and communicate and have fun, share ideas. It's more fun and leisure than it is for, should I say, for journalism purposes, but it's a nice show that's very well put together. It's very exciting, it's very educative. I have also had some of my works published on YouTube as well. I've been featured on the River State Television, RSTV. I've also been featured briefly on NTA. That was a very good one. And I am also a member of the Port Harcourt Global Shapers. Do you really want me to go on, or can I just stop here? Because it's like a long list.
You see, that's an extensive resume, and that is based on that. That's why I want some of these talent that we do have here. I want them to be able to glean some of that knowledge and some of that experience and some of that work ethic. Because what we are really trying to do, we're really trying to lift from the ground up. Things may not look the best, but the potential is what we have sought, and that's what we are trying to actually raise it all the way up. So with that said, I'll go ahead and just mention a few things, what we have on the pipeline. I think what's essential, our vision, our mission, these are very essential things which give us direction for what we are trying to do. It paints the picture, basically. You know, we have to always have the vision is just a perspective. You know, the mission is our purpose. It determines where we are going and what we're trying to do. Now, I want to mention one thing, that GruvCity is starting, although it's still in its infant toddler stage. Most of these things are subject to evolve, right? So I'll start with what we may see with our vision, right? So our vision is to be the ideal city guide for indigents, tourists, and visitors. Now, why is it to be the ideal city guide? Consider that you are someone, an indigent in the city. On a Friday night, you're looking for something to do, or on a Saturday, you're looking for something to do. Creatively, maybe spontaneous, religiously, something that adds development aspect, you know, professionally, leisurely. The point is that GruvCity is going to take all the ideals. We're going to take the ideals from each city and we're going to add it together. We're going to scrutinize it. We're going to filter it, and we're going to package it, and we're going to put it out there. For indigents, for even tourists, that adds more money to our states, our city, and for visitors. In other words, this is going to make living. We are trying to enhance the living, right? So when I said the ideal city guide, is that we're actually gleaning from what is ideal in each place, and we're actually hoisting it, and we're actually packaging, and we're backing it up. But then that's our vision, but our mission is also what determines what is specific about what we do. Like I said, we are trying to promote the ideals of the city through activities, for example. Activities could be any event that you know, events that are worthwhile, and we are going to, down the line, provide more description. An event could be something particular, let's say in Port Harcourt, right? They had the Carney Reef event, which I think that's a bigger event, right? I think Ms. Lateefa mentioned that they have the grid sessions even. The grid sessions, which is something that they're bringing about, that's also another event. It's just basically to utilize these which are content and to curate it and to package it and write it. Now, in saying this, we mentioned activities, we've mentioned events. Events are not limited to indoors, outdoors. Events could be of anything. It could be cultural, it could be non-cultural, it could be anything that you know that would give a positive vibe. It will promote the trend. It will actually give a signature of the pulse of the city. So with that said, that is our mission, to promote the ideals of the city in Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt through activities, events, positive trends, cultures, venues, whatever. The point of the matter is that just being creative can let you figure out whatever it is. And Lateefa, you may have some angle to this. You know, when we talk about like to promote the ideals of the city, you are very proficient in going about and diagnosing certain things in Port Harcourt that needed to be shown through your experience. How did you go about to do that, if you don't mind?
I think for me, I think the first thing is, and also by the way, I just like to put out here a disclaimer that everything I'm saying is basically off of my own personal feedback and my own personal take. It's nothing that is published in a book, so it's not law, it's not written in stone or anything, but this is just my own personal experience. This is just from me to you. Like back to your question. So I would say that for Port Harcourt as a city, if you don't go around, if you don't harness your community is basically the backbone of everything, right? So I wrote down here as one of my points to know your audience. When I'm talking about knowing your audience, it's about knowing your community, knowing the people that you want to write to. So say you want to put together an article about Bole Festival, for example. When you put up this article, who do you expect to read it? You need to be sure that you're okay.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but you mentioned Bole Festival. For those who do not know Bole, what is Bole, please?
Please, for the people who don't live in Port Harcourt, You need to visit and take bole and fish. It is amazing roasted plantain with roasted fish, and it's made with this sauce. It's not stew, but it's a kind of sauce. I know they serve it in Lagos for about 3,000 naira a plate, which is ridiculous. Because if you come down to Port Harcourt, you can have it as cheap as 200, 500 naira. But when I say key dishes of Port Harcourt, it's bole and fish is one of them. You need to know what it is. If you come down to the city of Port Harcourt and you leave without having bole and fish, you didn't visit the city. Trust me, you did not. You did not. You just went to someone's house and you left, literally speaking.
See, that is awesome. You know, one thing that you mentioned right now, when you mentioned bole and fish, you mentioned bole and fish specifically as something that it's in the city, right? It's like a staple in the city. So it's like, how do you use that, for instance, to make content, to write, or how do you not just write content, to create content? Because that's what GruvCity is looking for right now. That's what we are trying to get with the freelancers in terms of how do you go about intentionally, proactively to get content from all the gems. You've mentioned bole. Bole is like a staple. It's like a hidden gem to others who do not know. So how do you go about to do that? How do you, what process, what's the creativity there?
Okay, so the creative process when it comes to writing takes various angles. Like I said, you want to first of all begin by knowing your audience. Once you know your audience, you kind of know the kind of content that would interest them. So you're not bringing about things from the sky that nobody would want to read, you understand? So you need to know your audience. That's number one. Number two, when it comes to content development, ask yourself, what do I want to talk about? Now, let me just be honest with you. Almost everything there is to talk about has already been done. So someone has written about bole and fish before. Someone has written about the city of Port Harcourt before. Someone has written about the city of Port Harcourt and its iconic sites before. If you come to Port Harcourt, there's a place called Pleasure Park. It's just been open about a year or 2 years now. So it's very new to the city. Someone has written about that. But then you want to understand that even though it's something that has been written before, you can take it and shun it and use another angle to write about the same thing and the same experience. And people will be like, oh my God, I never thought about it this way. I never saw it this way. I never used to view it this way. Lots of people that have been to Pleasure Park, I'll still give Pleasure Park as an example. Most people have just been to the lower ground of Pleasure Park. Now, if you're very adventurous and you've used one of the rides and you've climbed to the top and you've taken an aerial shot of it, you can write in the perspective of the aerial shot and you can write from the ground to see how it shows you the beauty of the garden city, because that's what Port Harcourt is the garden city. So when you're on the ground, you see the garden city just within the aerial view of Pleasure Park. But then once you get on the rides and then you go up, you see the whole city. I've taken it from one angle of just, it's Pleasure Park, it has rides, they just opened these, blah, 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 blah. And I've given you another view of it. You want to take your readers through a journey. For every content you produce, number one, take your readers through a journey. They want to see the world through your eyes. So it's like, I've gone to this particular place, right? This was what I saw. This was how I experienced it. And that's the story I want to tell you. So I would say developing content, it comes like that. Know your audience, number one, right? Know exactly what it is you want to talk about, your content development. And don't be afraid if it's something that has been done before. But if it's something that has been done before, take it on another angle. Take your readers on a journey. Be in their shoes. If you were the one that I sent a link to read an article of 1,000 words, what do you want to see? I want you to take me through an experience, to make me enjoy your reading. That's what makes a reader come back. So when it comes to content development and getting an audience to pull in, that's what it is. If you don't have content that makes a reader feel like, I was having a boring coronavirus scary day, and because of what I read, I felt so excited, you haven't done your job. Please go back home and sleep.
Very well. That is awesome. That is some awesome. And I think that you can also utilize those same techniques, even in photography, even in videography, by giving them an experience, by giving another angle to that same perspective, by,
exactly.
It's like a journey. So it can be done in photography, videography, in article writing, in journalism, You know, that's just asking the other questions, you know, and also even in graphic design. And we have a lot of things coming down the pipeline for that. That's the reason why you guys are here. We are here to try to earn, to make something, and to actually put value back in there. But so that's part of our mission, and Ms. Lateefa very gracefully has given us some insight. But one of the things which I want to just try to quickly just go over, because these are the things which, in my opinion, have been exemplified through time. And Lateefa was our, if not our first, one of our first, but our first freelancer. And like I said, GruvCity is evolving. So a lot of things that we are going through, we are actually building it from the ground up. And most of these things, I've seen them exemplified even through work. We are looking for exceptional professionalism because, mind you, while you're doing work as a freelancer, you want to get paid, right? You want to be paid, you want to make value. And while you want to do that, you also want to make sure that what you're doing is actually worth it. Well, for also the company, the company also wants to be paid. So we have a standard that we are looking at, that we are going by, and one of them is integrity. And I think I mentioned these things. I'm going to try to like skip over these very quickly because we have maybe like 26 minutes to go. Integrity, we mentioned that by doing what you say you would and doing it basically, you know, without having any room for questionable perspectives, right? So integrity is that if you say you're going to deliver, you deliver on time. Beautiful. That's integrity. That means you are a person of your word. Over time, what that does is that it gives the company, it adds value to the company, and it also allows the company to also look at you as someone credit-worthy. I think what happens in the long run is that most of us, we want to get paid, we want to do work and then get paid for the work. But I think what happens is that through credit-worthiness, you're able to get paid before you even do the work. Are you guys getting what I'm saying? So that's part of it. And I think that these are what we are building, standards that going forward, even in Nigeria, we are actually raising the bar, but we are going to deliver as much as we also look to you to deliver. Quality over quantity. Like Lateefa Musah, she has exemplified, and I'm using her as an example. That's the reason why I invited her to actually come to speak. She provided quality in the materials that she provided, the articles that she put out. It was not the number of articles that she put out, but the time she took to deliver, the quality that she put behind each article. You know, she just didn't write the article alone, just kind of in a lackluster, nonchalant way. But she also went forward and also took photographs to back the writing. I'm right or I'm wrong, Ms. Lateefa? You see?
Totally correct.
Wonderful. And those are the kind of things, that is like, in other words, she also took ownership of that content that she was creating. You know, she represented GruvCity in each of the places that she went to. You know, she just didn't, she actually served as also to a certain level, investigative. Right? She went to investigate certain places, and you can find some of her articles on GruvCity, including other mediums. And I think before we're over, she'll also provide a link how you can get in touch with her as well. Dependability. One thing we're looking for, dependability is a very great quality. You know, many companies, especially in these times, you want someone that you can count on. You want people that you can count on, and people want others that they can count on. Dependability in a company is what allows many upper administration to rise to managers, or even many people, individuals in the companies to rise to management, because you can be depended on. You don't leave room for someone to even question. Accountability is another thing. So far as you know what steps you take to get to a certain place, you are present, you are active, you are acute, you know, and you know how to do what steps you took to get to your results, and you can replicate it. That's accountability, your self-accountability. I think the last part of our code of ethic is responsibility. You know, I'll give you an example. Once you take a task or a project, you are now responsible for that. In other words, once you decide to say, okay, I want to be a GruvCity freelancer, I want to earn money. You know, it's not that easy that people would give you just money for free. Some people can give you money for free for other reasons, but usually in certain places, people can also want you to earn money. You know, there's a saying that give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, but teach a man to fish and he will feed his family. I think responsibility is something that allows a person to feed his family or to feed her family going forward. So these are certain things, even responsibility in the company. You know, as freelancers, we all have responsibilities. As managers, we have responsibilities. As owners or founders, we have responsibilities. We all have to still do the same thing that the little guy is doing, because we are not, forget about the hierarchy system. There's a class system of hierarchy, but every leader, true leader, gets down to the bottom and picks from the ground up as well. So these are some of our ethics: integrity, quality over quantity, dependability, ownership, accountability, and responsibility. I'm not trying to be in a haste to cover these, but I think we're going to always have time for this as long as we have those who are here to do the work. Now, this is the interesting part. This is probably one of the reasons why we're here. You know, how do you earn as a freelancer? So, Lateefa, I'll leave that to you. So tell me, just for those who don't know, because this is also to give them some part of your experience in how earning as a freelancer, if you don't mind. I know it's based on successful completion, but and also building credit worthiness. Is there any other thing you may want to add to your experience for our freelancers here?
I mean, successful completion is, I mean, it's just common sense. If you haven't finished the work, I'm not going to pay you. Credit worthiness is basically just, like he said, showing your credibility for your work. Nobody wants to give someone money for work that they basically just took off of Google and they just made a few changes to it. There's no personal effort. It's not personalized to you and all that whatnot. For me, when I started off as a freelancer, I started off voluntarily, but for a very reputable organization called Pin Foundation. And then I ended up getting employed in that organization because of my writing. Now, sometimes when it comes to freelance writing, even though you may not be paid in cash, you could be paid in publicity. Now, I know a lot of people don't like to hear that. Freelancers that are listening to me, I know you don't like to hear it. I will publicize you, I'll publicize you. And then you start to think like, come on, at what point will I start, breaking even? I felt like that as well at the beginning. But sometimes, even when you're delivering your service, if you deliver your service to a reputable organization, a reputable person, magazine, paper, you get the credit worthiness that you need. I mean, I know that having some of my works published on GruvCity that I added to my resume as well as a writer helped to boost my credibility, because someone could actually search out my name and find it online. I was also able to boost my credibility because I had people that could vouch for me. And when I say vouch for me, people that I had worked for. So whether it was a book or a report or an article, whether you needed content to be, so I can also publicize your event online as well, using visuals and graphics and all of that. So having all of these people say, yes, I know this person, she did a great job. References, that's how it basically builds your credibility. It builds your body of work. So when I talk about this resume that I think is a bit too bulky for even myself to carry, it's because it's taking time to build it. It's taking effort to build it. So I would say as a freelancer, yes, you want to earn money. So there's sometimes that you should be able to say, no, I want to be paid for this, my work, right? And put your foot down and don't be afraid to say you want to be paid for it. But then sometimes if there are certain people that would approach you, once you do the research about them, you feel like, okay, even if they don't give me money, having their name on my CV or having them able to publicize me in a way that they can increase my credit worthiness online can also be good for my image as well. When I started off writing, I only had a few people who had paid me before, but a lot of the work I had written was online. So it boosted my credibility. People could see that, oh, right, she has actually done this and that. I could place the link there, you could follow the link, and you would still find my work. So all of these things come together to help to boost your credibility. So when you're talking about money, right, think about money in hardcore cash that will be in your account, yes, but think about money as well in a sense of it's going to boost your presence online. Those are the two kind of amounts that you need as a freelancer. If someone comes to you and they're not offering any one of the two, it's a waste of time to me, except you just feel like doing it for the person.
Excellent, very excellent. So those are now the qualities, that one even strives to have, and also to look for even while being a freelancer, or even while going around as a professional, while building your own professional cater of resume, right? So that definitely, you know, I was going to ask also, was the experience, like your freelancer experience, and I want to try to be more particular as it pertains to GruvCity, because we have freelancers here who are looking to join, be active on GruvCity on the portal. Your experience with GruvCity, how would you rate it, your pluses, and what could be improved in that? And is it something that you would recommend for freelancers?
It's something that I would recommend because it builds that creditworthiness, that online presence for you. So I would recommend it for that, absolutely, because except for some reason the site gets pulled down from online, it is one of the sites that is promoting Port Harcourt. If having your name there and your picture there, it actually works well for you if you can have a good body of work, you know, for yourself as a writer. I did enjoy the experience, no, not to lie. I was able to visit, like, so I put a little bit of, like he said, photography in there, journalism in there, and my own creative writing to kind of highlight some of the iconic places or places to visit when you come into Port Harcourt. Now, some people may say, yeah, some of these places are dilapidated, they are old, like the Isaac Borough Park. No one really goes there anymore. People are afraid to go there. But when I wrote about it, I didn't just write about it as a place of you can go there, but I wrote about it with the history that it comes with. So people were still able to enjoy it because it had its own history. The name has its own history. The position of the place is strategic because it has its own history. So yes, it was, so without having to do all that research for GruvCity, I was basically living in a bubble. So I didn't know that. So when I saw a place and I was like, people don't visit this place. How else? This is what I talk about, angles. How else can I tell this story that it would be enjoyable? Because it is an iconic site. I mean, the government may not have taken good care of it, doesn't mean that it's not something that cannot be highlighted for the good that it is. So I did enjoy the experience for the few freelance work that I did for GruvCity. I did enjoy the journey that I didn't think I was able to do some of these things that I ended up doing for GruvCity, right? But when I dove into the job, right, put my heart on and I was like, this is what I want to do, I was able to achieve a lot. The photography that came along with it, sometimes I still look at some of those pictures and I'm like, wow, I didn't know my mobile phone could do this amazing amount of photography. I didn't have like a big camera. So mind you, any of the pictures you will see, I don't have a nice Canon somewhere sitting pretty, you know. I just try to invest a lot in high-tech phones. And please, I'm a Samsung person, I'm not an Apple person. So
hey, pardon me.
There you go. Anthony likes that. Thank you very much, Anthony. So I am a Samsung user. So I just try to invest in very good phones that will give you good photography and good visuals. Make good use of YouTube. YouTube is your best form of resource, whether you are a writer, you are a photographer. Don't think that you have to pay for classes all the time to get a good body of work. I learned how to do everything just by putting in the work. So at the beginning stages, freelancers, this is my advice to you. It is going to be tough. It's going to be annoying. You're going to want to strangle a few people that you work with, but it's okay. Just know that you're learning all of this as a process and give yourself a time limit. If you're learning for 2 years, make sure that you put in the work to actually learn in those 2 years. Know that the 2 years is probably not going to bring you so much of money, but it's going to give you the credibility. That's why I tell you, your two currencies in this business is credibility and hardcore cash. If you're not gaining either one of the two, don't waste your time. My experience was good, and so I would say if you're taking it on, please go ahead and do so.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, in that case, so we know how, you know, the things about earning as a freelancer, you know, most likely, you know, invest in yourself, successful completion of your assignments and projects, building your credit worthiness, you know, even utilizing what you have to create what you need, you know, for your work. And mind you, by doing all of that, you're still going to be, you're earning something on the side. Like, you know, we're not expecting freelancers to be full-time unless you decide to create all these projects full-time, which GruvCity can get those projects from you, right? But potentially, it's that you can also be doing this on the side and still earning. The main aim right now, especially with the economy globally, is being able to earn. We all want to earn, and not just earn, but earn while creating value. Create value and earn based on that value. So this is where we are. So moving onwards, so we wanted, and we, we have a few like 12 minutes, which we can really get it into in 12 minutes. And there's some good information that we want to bring to you. We're gradually approaching that excellent information, but we want to cross these hurdles. The hurdle is service level agreement. Lateefa mentioned also, and I'm just going to probably regurgitate what she mentioned, being able to not find your content on, you don't want to just basically just Google and just put something, some tasteless content on, especially if you're going to be paid for it. Because those are the tendencies, whether you are continual with your company or not as a freelancer, right? So if you go about original content creation, that's what we are looking for. Uniqueness of perspective. Lateefa mentioned, you can, in Pleasure Park, Port Harcourt Pleasure Park, you can take a picture at the lower side, and you can also ride the Ferris wheel to the top and get an overarching view of the city. That's another angle of content. And just based on that content, you can write about it. You can do a lot of things with it. And GruvCity is here to try to get that content from you. You can use that content even as a photography to write articles on. You can use that content as photography to even interview people in Pleasure Park. You can use that same content of photography to even stitch them together and make a video, right? These are what you can do with content, but be original in your creation about it. There's also this thing about, we don't want content to be duplicated, right? In other words, when you create content for GruvCity, it is proprietary for GruvCity. GruvCity is a company. We are GruvCity Limited, but we want the brand GruvCity to be out there. The Limited, it's something we put in under the, just for business purposes. But we want non-duplicity of content. So that means when you create content, that content has to be used on GruvCity alone, because we're going to pay you for your time, for your work, but we want your content to be not duplicated, because that then leads to what they call plagiarism. Another thing, we want proper crediting of sources. One thing I noticed in Lateefa Musah's articles, she credited those sources. If she got a picture from somewhere, she credited it. She got material or references, she credited those sources. She made sure that they were referenced properly. This referencing is something that they call the DMCA, Digital Millennial Copyright Association, not referencing or incorrectly linking material, even to videos or photos, even if you have photos online. If someone takes the photos and uses it without your permission or without properly crediting, that's like a DMCA violation. And then also timely project completion. A lot of these things in service level agreements, we'll find them as we go on, as we are building even the freelance portal for GruvCity. So Lateefa, unfortunately, we thrust you into the deep end early. And so this is Lateefa Musah. She was here, or she is here, to brief us on the freelancing experience, which she has already been giving us bits and pieces of that. And we're still going to get more from her as we go on. She also mentioned tips for continued success. I wanted Lateefa in this because we have aspiring freelancers looking to work with GruvCity, right? So we wanted Lateefa to be in here to give us her dynamic and her experience. Okay, yeah. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. We wanted her to give her a dynamic and her experience. And some of the things which I think she mentioned were, like, how would I say, originality of content. That's one thing she mentioned. I mentioned also the code of ethics, striving for excellence. That's something that I'm using Lateefa as an example of someone who has worked with GruvCity, right? She has provided original content. She's been creative. She's shown dynamicity. She's also paid attention to detail in her going about to try to get the content. She mentioned about the confidence, being confident. So when you're going about to create content, or you're going about to negotiate even for yourself in an establishment, be confident, be confident. Make sure that you're free to pitch your ideas. Matter of fact, Lateefa, can you talk about you coming up, how you go about to pitch your idea of what you want to create as a content creator, as an article writer in that case?
Okay, so is this, you want me to just be particular to GruvCity, yeah?
You could be particular to GruvCity or not, but if GruvCity, better, because I want, we're trying to encourage our freelancers that they can pitch in what content they want to create, and it's left for vetting. I recall that, you know, when you and I were working on some articles, when I got you in for the GruvCity freelancer initially, you had that creative autonomy, basically, you know, to suggest, to look around your environment, as you mentioned, and to suggest, this is what I want to write about. This is what I want to capture. I want to just briefly, if you could just very briefly just mention how you went about to pitch it to, for instance, GruvCity management.
Okay, so when I was pitching my ideas, I think the first thing you want to have in mind is you want to fully understand the vision and mission of the organization that you're writing for. I think if you don't get that, most likely your ideas will not fly, except you're really, really good at pitching your work, you know? So once I was able to fully understand that, it was around the city of Port Harcourt. I lived in Port Harcourt as well. And then if you live in Port Harcourt, you know, there's this gap where you don't have a lot of people showcasing the city the way we just know it for a lot of violence, et cetera, which is unique to the Niger Delta, right? So I was working with a lot of organizations at the time that was trying to change that narrative, that negative, violent narrative. So GruvCity was one of them, but this was another fun way to do so. So once I was able to understand the mission and the vision of the organization, coming up with content was almost seamless. So once I have this idea, right, I run it by my community. Now, when I say my community, your community is your WhatsApp family. Please, if you don't have a community of people that you talk to or liaison with on WhatsApp, you need to start building that community. You need to have like a group of friends who can actually critique your ideas. They should be able to tell you when your idea is rubbish and when your idea is gold. So that before you pitch it back to GruvCity, at least you know, okay, if the people around me would want to read this, it should, that means other people out there would probably want to read it. Pass your idea through friends. If you go out somewhere, put it in a conversation and just ask people, what do you think of this idea? So that was how I was able to come up with some of the content that I came up with. Once I had that content, I know how I was going to be able to take it from start to completion. And then I think the selling point of my ideas, this is my personal tip to you. Selling point always for any idea that I pitch is, why is it different from every other person's own? If you cannot answer that question, then I'd probably read what's already online.
So why is it unique? Why is it unique?
Yeah, why is it unique? Why is yours special? Why should I pay for yours when I can get the same thing out there online? That should be your selling point all the time. So sometimes you might have an idea that is probably not completely in tune or in line with the vision and mission of GruvCity. But if you have that selling point, GruvCity can look at it and go, okay, I think we can take this story on. I think this story will fly because it is different, it is unique. So even when you have things that are talking about Bole Festival or Bole and Fish, or you're talking about Onunu and Catfish, or you're talking about iconic sites, why is yours different from all the other things that are out there? So once you can answer that question, I think you have a pretty good content ready to pitch.
Very, very well said. Very, very well said. Why is it unique? Having a body of people that can critique, having a group that you can reach to critique, that's also your support system. One of the things that we try to do is that we have tried to gather our freelancers together in the same group, WhatsApp group. I know that for intellectual property's sake, certain things can be touchy. You know, you might not want to put certain material out there, but if you find some good alignment with or affinity with any of those that you find working as freelancers, feel free to bounce it, or even have your own personal WhatsApp group as support, right? Well, with that said, the next thing which is very important is benefits, right? So these are some things where that I'm looking at. You know, this is my selling point. Lateefa mentioned that you have to be able to make your content your selling point, right? Well, for me, as representing GruvCity, this is my selling point for freelancers, okay? To try to get your quality work, you know, your excellence work, to get it in. So one of the selling points and our selling points are based on the benefits, right? So one of the benefits is that you're going to get paid for your content. If you're a blogger, blog style writing is opinionated style writing, right? If you're writing based on an opinionated style, that's a blogger. If you're an article writer, you're writing a narrative, you're writing in other writing styles, you know, that is another way, like a reporter style, or for sporting articles, that's another way. If you're also a citizen journalist, you know, that means you might have video recordings, or you might have recordings that you can transcribe and use from a question, answer, interviewee perspective. You know, those are certain things. If you are a graphic designer, a photographer, graphic designers, that means you're going to be creating promotional material. I'm going to mention a few things. GruvCity, we are actually partnering with certain establishments. We have some establishments we are partnering with in Port Harcourt, for example, and we are still reaching to others in Lagos. We are partnered with Polo Club. We are partnering with Hotel Presidential now. We're trying to get into Genesis Cinemas. We are trying to work with Port Harcourt Club, so we are in talks right now. We are bridging certain things. These are our partners that hopefully we are going to be getting promotional materials, promoting their activities to increase the tempo of the city. We are looking also in Lagos what we can do. We are looking in Abuja what we can do. And I know some individuals are also in Bayelsa. We have some people in Calabar. We're eventually going to get there, but we are touching these places. Meanwhile, the point is that, you know, with all these partner establishments, these are perks that there are perks that you might be able to get from those partner establishments. And I'm going to also break that down as we get closer, when I get down to the bottom of the list. But you're going to get paid for your content, whether it is writing articles, videography, photography, graphic designs. That's one of the perks that you're going to get paid for your content. The other thing is you have creative autonomy. That's your autonomy, that's your authority. You have the authority to be creative in your own skill set in any way. What I mean by guided creative autonomy, that means GruvCity is just going to basically say, based on what you bring as content, to say, okay, this is what I want to write on. GruvCity may now try to align you towards, okay, this is our vision and mission. Can it be spoken in this context, towards this particular context of elevating the city or promoting the ideals? It doesn't matter what it may be. It could be writing about canoe. You know, not everywhere has canoe. Some inner city, some states within the country, you know, they have their waterways, but not every major city may have the aspect of canoe. And canoe to a foreigner, to an European, to an American, you know, to someone in Australia, you know, those are the natural things that we are trying to promote, because they use kayaks here, but it's also canoes. Now we want to just take those content and push it out there to try to bring more investments, more things to the city. But what I'm saying is that even if it's writing about canoe, you have the creative autonomy. GruvCity may just try to guide you in terms of saying, okay, can you write it in this way? But it's still your skill. We're not going to try to muscle you to do that. We're just going to say, can it be written in best interest of our mission and our vision? Another thing is, this is part-time freelancing. You know, so you have flexibility. We're not going to take all your time. It's just freelancing. You can do it on the side. You can decide to say, oh, I want to make some extra money. I'm going to write on this thing. Just pitch it. Say, okay, this is the content you want to write. Pitch it. Send it by email to info@gruvcity.com. You know, say, okay, I'm a GruvCity freelancer. I want to write on this. What do you think? And that's just the start. Once you do that, everything is free falling. Lateefa, am I right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Another benefit is that, you know, as an author, your name is published on the platform. So you are now, as a published author, if you have, for instance, if you are writing, then you're a published author. If you're a videographer, we're going to utilize your content either in our articles or even on our YouTube platform. Like I said, GruvCity is growing, we're expanding, and there are a lot of things which we're doing, which I can mention. We have had some artists in Port Harcourt, local artists, Port Harcourt, with a Houston artist in the United States, both collaborate. We funded them. We created the music video, and they're on our platform. We have contact with some studios here, some DJs here. We also have contact with some artists here and also in the UK, even some artists in Nigeria that we might even be hosting events eventually. These are things down the line. I don't want to really make it to be what it is not, but I'm telling you that GruvCity is growing. So whatever your content is, videography, we have places for that. Photography, we have places for that. Graphic designers, we have as establishments that we are going to be promoting, right? Even as I mentioned, for graphic designers and also for article writers or content creators. The other benefit is that we intend to have an annual magazine, an annual hardcover magazine, right? And we're still working on that. But this annual magazine would be featured, or it would feature your articles that we have collected yearly, right? The best articles that we have collected yearly. We're going to compile it with both your graphics, your photography, and all that, and you're going to be featured there. That means now you are published, not just online, but you're published on hardcover, right? And these will be distributed to our partner establishments. We said about perks at partner establishments. There's one thing which I want Lateefa Musah to come in on, and I'm going to mention like the perks at partner establishments. For instance, we are hopefully looking to connect with some of our partner establishments, or we're looking to make partnership with certain establishments. In other words, I know in Port Harcourt, Mali and Blue, I've spoken with, Mali and Blue is featured in our recommended venues, right? So there are certain things that we're trying to work out, and I'm trying to go about into talks with their owner, who I have had a discussion with before. So stuff like that is that a perk could be just by being a freelancer, you might have points, or you might have some certain rewards you can go to, for instance, Mali and Blue, to get a free coffee. This is things that we are working on down the line, right? You can get free coffee, or you might be able to go to an establishment and get free lunch, for instance. Other things which I want to mention, and I think which I want to get Lateefa in. Lateefa, during your time, there was a thing about transportation, right? And I know we have gone over 1 minute, over 1 hour. We are at least 1 hour, 5 minutes, and we're going to try to cut it short within the next 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. We'll take questions and everything's all together. But during your time, Lateefa, as a GruvCity freelancer, in terms of getting transportation to those places, that means I would assume that there were times that you didn't use if you have a personal vehicle, but you needed to be able to get to those places and back where you had to write on. Can you inform, did GruvCity take care of that, or can you inform how the dynamics of that? And I would also mention part of the perks that we're working on.
So yes, so as part of the content that I was making, I wasn't making them, like I said, from just my room. So I had to actually go out and take some pictures, visit some of these places, and know kind of the nitty-gritties of these iconic sites. That was how I was able to know a lot about the Isaac Borough Park. So yes, when I put in my, should I say, my price list for putting together this piece, I also put in their transportation costs as well. So, and that was covered by GruvCity.
So part of what you did also was even like an investigative kind of journalism, because you could have even converted not just the article writing aspect, you could have converted it was somewhat of an investigative journalism that you did. But you also, I think you packaged it into an article or into multiple articles. So, well, as Lateefa mentioned, part of the perks are transportation. One of the things that we are working with also to foster a digital ecosystem. You might have heard the words digital ecosystem. We're trying to partner with Palm Drive in Port Harcourt, and I'm going to be going into talks with Palm Drive to see what Palm Drive can do for our freelancers and how we can be able to have our freelancers, whenever they have projects or assignments that require going to a venue, that Palm Drive will take care of that, for instance. That's why we're trying to work with that. Also, we're trying to also get into talks with Pukena in Lagos, right? We're trying to go on a company discussion to also have Pukena take care of that. And we're looking for some ride-sharing platforms in Abuja, right? Rather that we can have a system so that whenever our freelancers have projects, assignments, or maybe at events that they want to cover, because sometimes you might want to cover a red carpet event in the evening, right? If you are an article writer, or if you are even a, what do I call it, citizen journalist, you might want to cover a red carpet event. You might need transmission to and from. So we want to work with these ride-sharing platforms to try to establish and to boost our digital ecosystem. These are just some of the perks at partner establishments that we're trying to work on. This, hopefully we have covered most of what we need to cover. And hopefully you guys may have some questions. I believe you guys may have some questions for myself, for Lateefa Musah. She actually has had, she has had, I think in my opinion, she has been dipped into GruvCity. She has the wealth of experience, she has the know-how, and her professionalism, as she mentioned, it's also referential. You know, it's a referential aspect. Whatever she has done professionally, it's something that you can also reference it by her articles and by what she does. So I'm going to leave this motions right here for questions and answers from any of you guys. So feel free to unmute your mic. You can pose a question to Lateefa or myself if you need. And I believe that we'll be able to give you some answers if for any questions that you may have. So just feel free to mute your mic when you do so, or unmute your mic. And if, okay, so Anthony Ambrose.
Good evening.
Hey, very good evening.
Hi, evening. Yeah, thank you for the time. I just wanted to ask, how does it work for photographers? You know, you said something about videographers pitching ideas of what they want to create and stuff. Does it apply same to for photographers? Do we say like, oh, okay, I'm in Lagos, I want to go to this iconic place to take a picture? Does it work like that as well?
Very good question. Lateefa, let me take that, and maybe you can chip in if you feel the need. For photographers, if you see an iconic place, for instance, that you want to take a photo about, you can take a photo about and you can pitch it. If it's your original photo, but when you take the photo, I want you to provide what your thought process was when you took the photo, or this particular photo, right? We will get the photo off you. This is one way. That thought process allows us to be able to merge that photograph as content with a writer whom we may also combine both of you together. So now remember, not in this session, but in one of our earlier web sessions, I don't know if you are available, Anthony, but I think we mentioned that we were eventually looking at trying to pair, when we start getting a good understanding of what mix we have here, what freelancer mix we have here, we might pair a writer and a photographer. Lateefa mentioned that she also invested in her own phone as a photography. But now, this is the difference. The fees that you might get for certain kind of projects. Remember, there are assignments and projects. Assignments are shorter projects, smaller projects. And projects are larger initiatives, right? For instance, if we want to write about, or we want to cover details on just Isaac Borough Park, we can take different small photos, but those photos may be for a larger project. The larger project, it may not just be Isaac Borough Park, it may be more intricate details where we might make a video, we might use the photos as a flyer, we might also use it as probably for events there, right? So in answer to your question, you said if you see an iconic monument that you want to take a photo of, right? I want you to have in mind what makes the questions, and we are going to give you a template. What makes this monument iconic? What's your angle? I want to get your perspective, your creative perspective. It's all about creativity. You know, anyone can take photos. Anybody can take photos, but I want to have an angle. Give us an angle as a professional, right? This is your angle for taking this photo. I want you to put your creativity there, because your photos may be featured in our annual magazine. You understand? We are not just going to do online articles. We're going to have an annual magazine. Another thing about photographers is that we may have, like right now this is the coronavirus pandemic. So let me give you the actual perspective. A lot of businesses are going on lockdown. Some hotels, some of our potential partners are actually not fully functional. And we're looking hopefully to this pandemic and this quarantine stage and this social distancing and isolation aspect, once it actually starts reducing, minimizing, we're expecting to have our partner establishments contact us, or we are expecting to contact our partner establishments. Why? Because the economy still has to be boosted back up. But it may not be boosted back in the way it was before. Before it may have been solely based on oil, right? It may have also been solely based on other things in different places of the country. We have an angle, a long-term angle and a long-term perspective of how we want to use to promote those things. So we have a need for photographers, your photographs, and sometimes we may have projects that we may push our photographers with our citizen journalists to go to, right? A citizen journalist may be doing the interview, but the photographer may actually be covering the other angles. Do you get what I'm saying, Ambrose? So hopefully I'm answering your question. You're answering, if you have to take a photo, we get a few things. You can take a photo, but have in mind that you have details of why this is iconic, other meta details. Second thing, we also might pair you. You also have the autonomy to link with any writer, article writer, or blogger to say, okay, I want to go on this project, and combine your efforts in that manner. We will pay you both collectively, or we'll split it down the middle in that way. Third thing is that our partner establishments, we might require projects, and we want you to also visit our partner establishments for projects like that. And fourth thing is basically, it will be featured in our actual hardcover magazine. Did I answer your question, Ambrose?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. We are compiling it. Go ahead, please. Any other questions? Lateefa, you have something you wanted to add to that?
No, I think if he's satisfied, that's fine.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay, Mr. Scott.
Okay, my question is this. The last article I did for someone, I was paid based on the number of words in the article. So would that be also a criteria for payment?
That's a very,
okay, number two. Okay. I'm going on, like Lateefa said, she went on some projects and she took pictures. Now, sometimes you might want to take pictures, so people will be, some persons will not want you to take pictures. So would that be like an identity where you show that this is what you are doing as a freelancer, or you're writing for this, and then so they can allow you to take those pictures?
Excellent. Let me answer your second question, and I will let Lateefa answer the first question. Your second question is basically like having a press pass, right? It's like a pass, like a press pass. For our partner establishments, what we are trying to do, and what I intended to do before this lockdown came, we are sponsors of Startup Port Harcourt Week. GruvCity is actually an active sponsor of Startup Port Harcourt Week, and we aim to have a booth at this year's Startup Port Harcourt event. I was supposed to be there. Actually, I'm scheduled to be there with our booth there. Part of what we are doing when we come down is that we want to bring these. Just a moment. We want to bring these lanyards with our GruvCity badge. We have GruvCity pins that we are making as promotional items. We have the lanyards, which are the things that go over your neck, also the press pass. We have a few of our promotional items which we are bringing. Just a moment, Mr. Aminu Ahmed. Mr. Aminu Ahmed, can you mute your phone, please? Mr. Aminu, can you mute your phone? Okay. Okay, so to your question, Scott, is that we are bringing a lot of promotional items which would also indicate press, which our partner establishments are familiar with. The lanyards are that which would also include the badge with press and with GruvCity insignia, right? Because we are actually an established company. So yes, in that case, there's some disclosure and disclaimers that we are going to put in our freelancer portal, which would give you a lot more information how to go about in such activities as that. So yes, we would provide you like some press passes, but we are also looking for we are still building our Lagos contact. We have our Port Harcourt contact solidified. We are building our Lagos contacts where, for instance, while you are a freelancer with GruvCity, we don't want people to misuse these items, because these items are proprietary to the company. We are going to give it, but we are going to give it on some terms so that that aspect of responsibility in our code of ethics, you understand the responsibility aspect, where it's show charge, show initiative, take charge, and also be responsible for self and then others, that we want you to also hold that in check. Okay, so yes, we're going to provide you some of that. Lateefa, you might want to add to maybe that first question.
Okay, hi Scott, once again. So to your first question about writing to get paid, I think whatever piece that you want to put together or whatever content you want to put together to get paid will be, the criterion for payment will have to be decided by GruvCity. So say you want to put together a piece, right? If it's going to be a series, maybe a 3-part series piece that you want to put together, you can pitch that idea as a 3-part series and then pitch your payment criteria that you would like to be paid for based off of this and that and that. That has to come along with your pitch. So everyone's pitch must come along with a payment schedule. So don't just pitch and allow GruvCity to be the ones to tell you what to get paid. So because you are the person on the field, you're the one who understands what transportation costs is going to get. You're the one who understands the nitty-gritties of the things that you have to do to get the content that you need. So as long as you can pitch all of that in an explanatory manner, I'm sure that yourself and GruvCity can come to a conclusion that, okay, this piece that you're going to put together will pay you either on the number of words you're going to use, or if you complete the series, or if the series includes X, Y, Z thing, then we'll pay you this amount. I'm sure. So it has to be decided between yourself and GruvCity together.
Very, very excellent. So Scott, hopefully does that answer your question? Well, let me just reiterate what, so to a certain extent, what Lateefa said. She mentioned that, so while you're pitching, and I don't want to really just reiterate, I want to take on from what she has said, actually. If you have a project, you decide the project you want to do, and what she mentioned was, for instance, if it's a 3-part project, right? And you said, okay, the project is going to be these 3 parts. You will deliver part 1, part 2, part 3. You negotiate exactly what you want to be paid for all of that, or what you want to be paid for one, if one is longer than the other. One of the things you are saying is that in terms of number of words, right? I can let you know that, for instance, if you have an extraneously long article, right? In my opinion, the extraneously long article, which may have multiple parts, which can be broken down into multiple parts, right? That I think is what is ideal. But that article could be used also in our annual magazine. What we're looking at is not so short articles, but if it's extraneously long, it can actually be divvied to be split up into multiple, right? Once it's split up into multiple, it's up to you to make a determination of what you consider you want. And then that opens the door for discussion with GruvCity. Because GruvCity is going to tell you this is what we want to give you, right? You indicate what you want or what you would take. And then gradually we're now going to start setting a standard. Once we have broken that initial barrier, then we now have standards, right? For we know, okay, for this article, which may be 2-part article, you want this amount, right? And oh, you might need perhaps to go to this other place, transportation-wise. You might need to go to this event or to this venue. Maybe you want to go cover an event, for instance, right? Or an activity, or like a carnival, for instance, you know? So in those cases, gather all the details with your pitch, put it together. And one thing I can tell you is that, or one thing maybe even Lateefa can tell you how seamless this can be done. I mean, am I right? Eventually, we're not trying to be micromanaging. We are all grown-ups here. You know, we are all adults. We're not trying to be micromanaging anyone. What we want is that you come with your own autonomy, your creativity. This is your talent. This is what you're going to do. Your talent is going to speak for itself. Once you say that, we are basically going to open the doors, see if we can afford it, if it's in budget. If it's in budget, we give you the go-ahead. Boom, you go ahead. Over time, once we know that what you do, you put out what you say you would do, very soon, before you pitch, You might just pitch this and we might pay you before you even go ahead to get it done. This is just because you have built your credit worthiness or your credibility. Does that answer your question, Scott?
Yes. Thank you.
I'm hoping you are encouraged to proceed, to forge ahead. I'm hoping this is all encouraging.
I am.
Wonderful.
I am.
Wonderful. Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, I do have a question. This is Deji.
Hello, Deji.
Yeah. Hello everyone. My question, I would like to know if after writing an article or writing a piece, upon posting it or promoting or upon posting the article by GruvCity, I would like to know if we have the right to actually promote the same article on our personal social media handle, because you already said whatever it is we bring up becomes a property of GruvCity.
Yes.
So I would like to okay for us to promote those things we wrote through our own personal social media handles.
I will just briefly touch that. You have another question?
Yes.
Okay.
I have another question. Okay, so you said this is based on the question Scott asked, and when you were answering, you said something like sometimes extremely long articles could actually be broken down into series.
Yes.
I would like to know if while we are pitching the proposal for the article in the first place, we didn't have the plan to make it a big one like that. But for some one reason or another, coming along, it becomes more interesting. It becomes bigger than we thought it is going to be. I want to know what the payment structure will be. Can I actually renegotiate for the payment and something like that?
Okay, so I will briefly touch the first question, and I'm going to let Lateefa handle that. And I'm just going to touch a second question before I let Lateefa handle it. Lateefa will be able to tell you a lot more about that first question. The first question, which was basically, are you open to, given that the article is proprietary for GruvCity, are you open to also share it on your social media platforms? If maybe that's it, I think maybe that's a question for that. Lateefa will be able to give you a lot more insight. For the second question, which you mentioned, if the article that you're writing, for instance, it seems to become more interesting and you want to now prolong it, you want to extend the dynamic aspect of the article lengthwise, then you decide whether it's an assignment or it's a project, right? A project is more extraneous, it's more lengthy, it has more research. Based on those things, we can determine, okay, what is appropriate. Like I said, there are a lot of possibilities. The negotiating aspect, what I would suggest is that, just for standardizing, once you pitch a project or an assignment, it is what it is. If you say, okay, you want this X amount for this article, this is what you're going to do, this is your pitch, this is the transportation. We don't want to create too much variability. I'll tell you, there's a thing called Lean Six Sigma. Lean Six Sigma is about reducing variability. Variance is a cause of bad quality. You understand? So if you have too much variance, you want your customers to have options, but you don't want to have variance. You want to have a standard where anytime you say this is what people expect. So my point, to cut it short, is that if you pitch a project and it becomes more interesting and you've already gotten the calculation and your expenses for that, your estimate, rather decide to make another project. Be creative about it to say, okay, this is for another project. There's a connection here that you can use. But also feel free to let us know that, potentially this is what you want to do. You want to probably link both of them, or you might want to increase your budget for that. These things we will consider in the starting phase. But down the line, we want to know who we're dealing with, freelancers, that this is what we expect. And when you build that creditworthiness or true credibility, then anything is possible. Once we have that credibility, anything is possible. All doors are open. You are the master of your domain in that case. I'll defer to Lateefa for those any additions to your questions.
Okay, hi Deji. For the articles in series, right? That's your question about if you intended it to be a one part and then something happens and then it's a two-part series. I also have that with GruvCity as well. one of the, I think the first or the second, something like that, article that I posted was supposed to be a one piece. But then when I put the piece together, it was so lengthy that I felt it would be ridiculous to post it as one piece. So I didn't recharge GruvCity for it because technically speaking, I did not go out to do the project again as a two-part. It was still a one-part series. I just posted it in two halves. So there's another thing you need to look into when it comes to length of whatever it is you're posting, right? You don't want to post an article that is too lengthy. Once it's too lengthy, it becomes boring to read, especially when you're in this society where you don't have a lot of young people who are reading. Young people so photographers, videographers, you're going to get a lot of show here because we like to watch, we like to see. But when it comes to writing, you want to link your pictures to your words, right? So if you make it too lengthy, then it becomes too boring to read. So I ended up posting it as a two-part series, but I did not recharge GruvCity for it because I had already gone out. I had done the assignment. It was just when I came back to put the piece together, it ended up being very lengthy. So I decided to make it into, I think, either 2 or 3 halves. I can't remember what it was, something like that, but I did not recharge GruvCity for it. And then you talked about promoting your work on social media. I mean, it's one of the points I have here as well. Please, everybody sell yourself, but you need to give credit to GruvCity. So the same way when you lift a picture from Google or you lift a phrase from Google, you give credit to whoever made the definition or where you got the definition from or where you got the picture from. You give credit to the original author. When you post your work on GruvCity, say for example, you're going to post it on Twitter. Once you add the link, it's a GruvCity link anyways. So you are giving credit to GruvCity. You are making the traffic move from Twitter to GruvCity because they're going to go to GruvCity to view your body of work. The only thing I would say that you cannot do with your body of work is you cannot take something that is for GruvCity and go and redo it, recouch it a little bit, and then go and post it somewhere else. You're gonna get caught out for it, right? Except you're taking the same piece and you're using it from 2 different angles, right? Which most of the time you'll still get caught out. So don't put yourself in that bubble. There's so many things to write about, so many things to talk about. So I would say when it comes to posting your work on GruvCity, absolutely, please post it on your personal page. Retweet GruvCity's page if they not go on Twitter. Tag them, all of that. It's all about creating that network. So I work with ND-Link, or I used to work with ND-Link. I work with an organization now called Partners for Peace. I'm a World Economic Forum Global Shaper. So when I post something out there, all these bodies as well repost my work. When they post their work, I also retweet and repost their work as well. It's credited to them because at the end of the day, the traffic is going to GruvCity. So you don't take anything away from GruvCity by posting it on your social media page. You are helping them to improve their market because you probably have about 20 or 50 followers that GruvCity doesn't have. So because of you, they will probably get to know about GruvCity. So if GruvCity stops you from posting on your social media page, I'll call them crazy. A little crazy, just a little crazy.
That's very excellent. Matter of fact, you already have by posting your article that you write, you're already going to have your picture there, which would indicate that this is your article. You have some biography of you so that people know who you are. In other words, by posting on your own page, you're promoting GruvCity, you're also promoting yourself. This is the beauty of it. We cannot stop you from posting your article on your own page. It doesn't make any sense. And I second Lateefa in that I will tell the Groove guys in GruvCity, that something is wrong with them if they do that. My point basically is that you're promoting yourself, and that's a big thing. GruvCity, we are not in the business of, we have a long range perspective that we are working on, which it involves, we are going to apply some science and some data down the line. There are other initiatives which we are doing. We are working on, for instance, urban reprogramming. So this is something I have not yet mentioned now because I think it's still kind of early. But the urban reprogramming aspect, just to touch on it, just to put like a grain of salt on it, your articles, everything that we are putting out, it's converging to the urban reprogramming, whereby we are reprogramming the urban mentality mindset more for the positivity. and there's always a return on investment based on whatever angles of our articles which we are doing. We are classifying, we are categorizing, and we're using these things. At the end of the year, we are also generating data from this. So this is another initiative down the line. But yes, seconding what Lateefa Musah said is that posting on your own website or on your own social media profile, your article, we applaud it. You know, it's promoting GruvCity as well, and it's also doing wonderful for you. Even as a reference, you can use your article as a reference in your own resumes, right? In your own other job searches, you can use it as a reference. So yes, we encourage that. I think it's 1:33. We are probably slightly above the time, but let me ask if we have any more questions. And Deji, did we answer your question? Just to be sure, did we answer your question?
Yes, you did. You did.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I'm also looking at. I find that I have some. You know, I've looked at some of your writing style and some of your sample work. I appreciate you for sending your sample work as well. So thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank
you. Can I still ask one more question?
Of course, please.
Okay. I want to talk about transportation. Lateefa spoke the other time about adding the cost of transportation to whatever it is she's pitching to GruvCity before she embarks on the project. I'd like to know if, for instance, I want to write about an art exhibition that is going to be taking place over the space of, say, 3 to 5 days. And then I have to keep going to the venue and back. Will I have to, you know, accumulate the whole cost for all the days I'm going to be going on that journey?
So that's a very, very excellent question, Deji. So that, in my opinion, it seems like it is more so towards a project. It's more lengthier. In your pitch, basically. So let's use this that as an example. So in your pitch to go to this art exhibit event. So in other words, you want to cover that event. So you're going to pitch this art exhibit event is occurring between these days to these days, and transportation to and fro is definitely going to be part of it. You're going to include your expenses or the potential expenses, and also for each day. But also you're going to provide some data to back that event that it is being held, for instance, right? Because you have to also provide supporting data for that event. That event that is being held, you have to provide either a pamphlet, a link to the event being held, whatever. And based on that, we're going to vet it. If we find it that we have budget for this, we're going to definitely go approve it. And then I think that basically would cover expenses. Yes, we want to maximize GruvCity's ability in providing quality. Now, we know that we're mostly talking about expenses that we are going to, you know, paying freelancers and all these things, but we are looking at also on the other side, we're looking at our return on investments. You understand? So knowing your skill set, knowing your quality of delivery, these are things that we can definitely put into consideration and look towards the fruition or towards its potential approval. Yes. And in your question concerning the transportation, we are looking to definitely push with providing those services. Eventually, down the line, hopefully, we would have had Pukena providing our transportations where we can vet that. But essentially, if this event is approved, your transportation also, you should have a quote for your transportation along with your pitch so that we can also make sure that that also goes in. Is there anything, Lateefa, you might want to add to that?
I would say for that aspect, if there's like a prominent event going on in your city, so for example, iconic events that go on in Port Harcourt that we all expect to happen or reoccur every year is Bole Festival. Bole Festival is one of them. It's 4 or 5 years running now. I think this year is going to make its 5th year. So it's an iconic event. It drags a lot of traffic, whether it's online or whatever. Lots of people travel from around the world to come to Bole Festival. It's an iconic event. So I would say it's all about, GruvCity is your employer. So you want to give them value for money. They want to see why they are going to spend this much amount for you to cover an event that is going to last either 2 or 3 days. You can partner alongside with one of the photographers and videographers, and you guys can do it as a joint project. That way they can see that, okay, it's not just one person going out there, it's 2 people that are partnering together to achieve this body of work. Another thing is you can give them, should I say, some sort of entrance. So I know the people that put together Bole Festival, for example. So if I want to cover a piece for Bole Festival as either a journalist or a videographer or photographer, right? I can get GruvCity a stall for a discounted rate, for example, right? So because I know the owners, I can say, okay, fine, since you're going to cover my transportation for this, how about I give you value for something? So here, let's do a little trade here. This is how much I want this whole thing to cover, but also you will be getting this. So maybe because GruvCity has a stall that day, they are able to make back some of that money, or they are able to increase their market base or get more people to know about GruvCity and visit the site, etc., etc., etc. So it's just about showing your employer, and this doesn't have to be GruvCity, anyone that you write for, that you can give them good value for money. I think that was one of my selling points when I actually decided to be a freelancer with GruvCity. I showed that I can actually give value for money beyond words. I had good social media following, I still do. And then I can also add my photography skills in there. I was being able to know, like some of the places he has mentioned, Mali and Blue, that's SA. I know SA very well. Sato Potako, that's Bereni. Know Bereni very well. I also know the lady who owns Corner Store as well. So as you can see, I showed him that I also know my community as well. You need to show value for that money. So if I'm going to pay you 50K for a project, you need to show me value for it. That's just it. As long as you can prove value, good value, beyond reasonable doubt, should be nothing.
Yeah, I want to add to what Lateefa mentioned. And this is basically, initially I said that we are curators, connoisseurs, and ambassadors, right? We are curators in the fact that we seek and we seek those ideals in the city. We know those things which are of quality around us that we can use to actually provide ourselves work. You understand? We know those things which are quality. We are connoisseurs because we have that fine taste. And this is as freelancers. I'm talking as freelancers representing GruvCity, right? We are connoisseurs, curators, connoisseurs, because we know those hidden gems. Like she has mentioned that she knows those, Mali and Blue, the owners of Mali and Blue, Sato Potako. Those are the legacies. Even the aspect of Bole Festival. This is how will I say, this is a tribute to Port Harcourt itself, the aspect of just the Bole, culture-wise. So those are the connoisseur aspect. And then ambassadors, because you're representing your city. You are a representative there. So knowing all that, you're already in a good place. Just look around and just assess it. You're in a good place to know and to go and to get that quality and to even set yourself and to put yourself in whatever is you think is necessary for you to create that quality. We are just going to try to back it and try to do our job in different ways to try to make sure we can push that narrative out there. Does that answer your question, Deji?
Yeah, it does. It does. Thanks.
Wonderful. Excellent. I want to mention one other thing. There are a lot of changes that are coming about. Port Harcourt, for instance, River State has a new director of tourism and culture by the name Yibo Koko, and Lateefa, you will know him. So we are also trying to very, very excellent. We are trying to find ways to also align what we are doing that it boosts, because he has a direction in how he wants to revitalize River State's Tourism and Culture Board and the agency and just in general. He has done phenomenal things. He's the founder and the curator of this what's it called?
Seki Dance Drama.
Seki Dance Drama Troupe. Very wonderful, very colorful troupe. So we are trying to also align with what he's doing. I've chatted with him a few times about trying to see what we can do. So we are aligning ourselves in our own right as GruvCity. We already have our vision and our mission, which extends in our own direction, but we are looking for those areas which we can partner with. And these things also promote whoever is working, because we are not trying to overshadow. GruvCity is its own platform, but each of you as freelancers, you are professionals, and you are professionals, frankly. That's why a freelancer is a professional, actually. And what we are doing is that we are working with professionals through as you guys. That's what we are trying to do. So does anyone have any other questions? And we want to try to make sure that by the time we leave this this session, that we are all encouraged. That's what we want to. We are all encouraged to go forth. I think one of the main things why we wanted to have this session is because we wanted to motivate you guys to go ahead and start pitching out what you think you want to work on, so that we can start that narrative of trying to build. Because look around, this pandemic thing is like it's tearing things down, but you know, there's a saying that where problems lie, that's where solutions lie as well. You understand? As much as we are seeing these problems, if we wait for this thing to subside, you know, sometimes it's in the tough times that the tough keep going. If we wait for it to subside, you know, that might be, it might be too late, because there are others that may be going forward. So I think this is when we start building, even in this state. So we have gone far for, I think, let's say we have been for almost 20, an hour plus. If anyone doesn't have any questions, I want to thank you guys for being here, for coming here. I want to encourage you guys for to participate and to pitch your ideas. I want to thank Miss Lateefa Musah. In her right, she basically has provided a wealth of information that, you know, just by myself, I wouldn't be able to have pulled it out myself. And Lateefa, if our potential freelancers want to reach you, for instance, for advice or to get a perspective on how to navigate this terrain, these terrains of freelancing, or these terrains even trying to build with GruvCity, for instance, or with any other company, how can they reach you?
Okay, so I'm typing out my social media handles now.
Okay.
So you can reach me at Musah Lateefa. So my Musah is Musah. Lateefa is spelled Lateefa on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook. Everything is pretty much the same, I think. And yeah, I think once you can find me on social media, ask me any other questions, then we can redirect from then onwards. But yeah.
Wonderful. So Musah Lateefa on Facebook, on Twitter,
and
right?
Instagram.
And Instagram. I'm also going to share this on our GruvCity freelancer group for those who are here, and for those who are not here. I'll share this, and also we have some of these being recorded. So when necessary, we might provide it as a playback just to reorient any who may have questions. One other thing I want to mention is that most of the questions which are being put here, we are compiling them into our frequently asked questions for our to use and to provide for our freelancers, and also to take some data from that. So once again, that Lateefa Musah's handle on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is Musah Lateefa. Feel free to reach her for any questions, any concerns, even advice regarding how to navigate this, how to negotiate, how to pitch, what ways you want to be able to use your skill set or apply your skill set, and what GruvCity may be able to do for you. Myself, you can reach me via info@gruvcity.com. I'm already with you guys, and I'm also having on the WhatsApp GruvCity freelancer platform. So feel free at any time, and I'll be looking forward to your pitches very soon. There's some people who I have who are not here, but I'm going to also, I've contacted them directly, and some of you guys who have participated here, I'm going to look through your sample work, and I'm going to also reach out to you directly shortly as needed. Okay. In that case, we'll be discussing, and we'll try to get you guys on board as soon as possible, so we can start really creating. Does anyone have any other questions, any comments? Well, with that said, I want to thank you guys for attending. I want to thank Lateefa for coming through. Thank you guys for your questions and your comments. And remember the handles, and we'll follow up with you guys again. Some of these recordings will be posted. Lateefa, you wanted to take a photo. I don't know how many people we have here, or let's see.
So we have about 9 people. I don't need everyone to turn on their camera. That's fine. If you don't want to be in the shot, I'm okay with that.
Okay. So Lateefa wants to take a photo.
So if anyone is happy to take a picture, you can just turn on your video and then we'll take that real quick. Okay.
So you guys show your happy face, because this might go on some magazine or something. It might, you know.
Can you take a screenshot at your end as well, if you want to? Yeah.
Okay.
All right, everyone. I'll just take one more. Okay, that's great. Thank you guys so much. And good luck with everything, freelancers. Just put in your best work, write, tell stories. So that's the important bit of writing. A lot of people just want to think writing is just about jumbling words together, but that's not what wins you Oscars and Grammys and et cetera, et cetera. So tell stories, and I'm sure people are going to love what you come up with.
So guys, thank you again. And guys, we'll catch up again. And Lateefa, thank you one more time. Everybody, we'll see you guys again. And we'll be reaching out gradually with you guys, okay? And Lateefa, same thing here. And
all right, thank you so much.
Reach out. Thank you again.
All right.
All right, guys.
Ciao.
Have a good one. Bye. Peace.